Hello and welcome. Now we get to a couple of fun episodes, and I like the strategy at play here. Basically, we just revealed the major evil, and the previous episodes before that were introducing us to the characters one by one. Now we see how those characters interact. Basically, the next 3 episodes take two of our characters, put them together, and see how they bounce off one another. Their differences might cause a fight and get in the way of them trying to overcome whatever obstacle is in front of them, but at the end of the episode, they'll understand each other better and be better people for it. This manages to develop the characters a little bit, while also establishing how they work together and discussing the differences between all of our characters. So Digimon celebrates his quote-unquote victory and sends out more black gears. Tai and Agumon are still flying around on their bed and eventually crash land in a snowy region. And, for God's sake, somebody make him put clothes on. Thank you. Tai notes that they're still floating further and further away from Infinity Mountain and guesses that the other kids are on the other pieces of the island. So they wonder what the hell they're gonna do for a few minutes, and then they run into Frigimon. Agumon insists that Frigimon is a friendly, docile Digimon, and guess what happens next? So anyway, yes, he attacks. They try to fight, but Agumon is still exhausted and incapable of fighting effectively, so all they can do is run away. Eventually, they get trapped, and Tai uses some sort of soccer move in order to get Agumon on Frigimon's back so he can destroy the Black Gear. I liked this. They overcame an obstacle with ingenuity and strategy opposed to just beating the crap out of him. Straight up fights can only take you so far, and I kinda like that the human partner got involved on the fight. So this was actually kinda cool. So they destroy the Black Gear and Frigimon apologizes for his actions. Frigimon has a voice that sounds a little bit like Frosty the Snowman, which I actually thought was kinda cute, or at least I was fine with it. Frigimon mentioned that he saw another kid land on one of the other hunks of island. As luck would have it, Frigimon's punches are capable of freezing water, which he uses to start creating a bridge from one hunk of island to the other. This was good too. The kids don't know what to do, they run into an ally, and the ally helps them do what they need to do. So we cut to Matt, who is indeed another chunk of the island. He's running around looking for TK and seems to have nothing else on his mind even as he's freezing. They come to a cave, and after checking to see if TK was in it, Gabumon manages to convince Matt to let him go out and look for TK while he stays warm inside the cave. A few seconds after Gabumon leaves, however, Matt heads out on his own anyway. Here, we get an expanded look at Matt from what we saw in episode 3. He views TK as this helpless little kid that he has to look out for and protect. When TK is in danger, he forgets everything else, becomes irrational, unreasonable, and confrontational, and will do whatever it takes to protect him. So, during the trip over the bridge, Tai and Agumon get tired, and Frigimon starts carrying them. What a nice guy. Anyway, Matt didn't make it very far and ends up collapsing not too far from the cave. Gabumon finds him apparently in the early stages of some kind of hypothermia. Gabumon gets him back into the cave and eventually gives Matt his fur so he can warm up. I like all these scenes, but I do have just one question. If Matt is freezing to death when he's outside, why does Tai seem completely unaffected? The only thing I can think of is that Agumon used his flame breath to heat up Tai's clothes, which he did on screen by the way, but that's pretty thin. So Tai, Agumon, and Frigimon are going around looking for Matt. While they're doing this, Frigimon is telling them some stories, and surprisingly, I didn't actually hate this. The standards for witty banter in this show are pretty low, but as far as it goes, I thought Frigimon actually did a decent job of being mildly entertaining. Presumably the next morning, Matt wakes up to find that he feels better. Gabumon, on the other hand, has caught the cold that was meant for Matt. Finally, our two groups meet up. After this reunion, they ask Frigimon if he's seen any other kids in the area, but he says they haven't. They must be on the other pieces of island that are much further away. With no apparent way to get to these other hunks of island, Matt becomes unbearably bitchy. This gives us another look at Matt's character and another look at how Tai and Matt are different. Tai is being more laid back, rational, and reasonable about their situation. Tai's looking at the big picture. He wants to meet up with his friends again, and he is a little upset about this development, but he's also considering the things that Digimon said and wondering where this island is headed toward. He also correctly points out that there's no way for them to get from their hunk of island to the other hunks of island. So he makes the rational decision about worrying where the island is heading. To Matt, however, this is Ty being callous, and they start fighting. While Ty is considering the situation at whole, Matt can only think about his brother. Neither side can relate to the other side, and a fight ensues. So they bitch at each other for a minute or two, and then they actually start physically fighting. So they roll around in the snow a little bit, and don't take that the wrong way. They come to the edge of a cliff, and finally they come to some sort of an understanding. Ty insists that he can relate to Matt's position, which Matt is disbelieving of, and this gets filled out a little more much later in the season, so we'll leave it at that for now. Mojimon, however, comes along and attacks, knocking the two kids off the cliff. They and their partners end up getting knocked off, but Frigimon comes to the bottom of the cliff to catch them. And to top it all off, Frigimon feeds Agumon and Gabumon. What a nice, pleasant character he is. Mojimon comes back down to fight, but they evolve and knock the black gear out of him. During this fight, a piece of rock wall gets knocked off to reveal a ton of black gear spinning around inside. After a few seconds, the gear starts spinning the other way, and the island starts moving back in the other direction. Ty and Matt make up. Matt momentarily accepts that TK is on his own and hopes he can handle himself, and the episode ends with some confident words on how they're sure they can find a way to defeat Devimon. Putting Ty and Matt at odds is usually the formula for a good solid episode of Digimon, and this episode is no exception. On their own, Ty and Matt are okay characters, and they do a nice job of filling their role. But I think they have good chemistry together, and they're at their best when they're interacting with one another, be it in a positive or negative way. In some ways, they're fairly similar characters, but their small differences in personality make for good back and forth. On top of this, Frigimon was a nice little character. I appreciated how helpful and nice he was. And maybe that sounds fruity, but so be it. So this episode earns high marks from me, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.